Welcome back to another Explainer. So today, we're popping the hood on one of the biggest, most complex political systems on the planet to look right at its engine room, the Indian legislature. You know, when we think about government, our brains usually jump straight to the prime minister or the cabinet. But honestly, the true beating heart of India's democratic setup is the parliament. So we're going to break down exactly how this massive engine actually works, piece by piece.
Let's kick things off with a fundamental idea. A genuine democracy is inconceivable without a representative, efficient, and effective legislature. Why is that absolutely crucial? Well, because a legislature isn't just some factory churning out laws. It is literally the foundation of representative democracy. It's the arena where the folks you elect are actually held accountable. Without it, the whole concept of rule by the people just kind of falls apart.
All right, here is our roadmap for the chapter today. First, why we need Parliament. Second, the two houses explained. Third, the functions of Parliament. Fourth, the lawmaking procedure. And finally, controlling the executive. Let's get to it.
Section 1. Why we actually need Parliament. Okay, it's super easy to watch news coverage of Parliament and just see a bunch of arguments or walkouts, right? But what you're really seeing is the voice of a massive nation coming together. Just look at the sheer scale and diversity of India. Countries with this kind of intense regional, social, and linguistic variety usually go for a bicameral or two-house national legislature. Why? Because honestly, a single house just can't adequately represent everyone. A bicameral system makes sure that every region, every distinct group gets a seat at the table. Plus, it builds in a fail-safe. Every single decision gets a double check from that second house.
And what's really fascinating is that this two-house setup isn't just a national thing. The Indian Constitution lets individual states choose to have either a one-house or two-house legislature to handle their own local complexities. Right now, 6 states have actually opted for this bicameral approach. That's Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Telangana, and Uttar Pradesh. It really just reflects how incredibly complex governing such huge populous territories can be.
Moving on to Section 2, the two houses explained. So, zooming back out to the national level, the Indian Parliament balances its power between two very distinct houses, and they each have a totally different base of representation. On one side, you've got the Lok Sabha, the House of the People. Its members are directly elected by the citizens, and it runs on a maximum term of 5 years, though, it can be dissolved earlier. On the flip side is the Rajya Sabha, the Council of States. This one is indirectly elected. Basically, citizens elect state legislative assembly members, and then they elect the Rajya Sabha members. And it's a permanent house. It never fully dissolves. Instead, members serve 6-year terms, and 1/3 of them retire every 2 years.
Oh, and speaking of the Lok Sabha and direct representation, lock this number in your head, 543. The entire country is carved up into 543 territorial constituencies, with one representative elected from each. And here's a wild fact. That number hasn't changed at all since the 1971 census. It represents the direct democratic will of the people across the entire nation.
All right, Section 3, the functions of Parliament.
So what do they actually do all day? It's way more than just hitting a button to pass a law. Yes, Parliament absolutely has a legislative function. They approve laws. But they also control the executive, making sure the government doesn't step out of line. They hold the nation's purse strings with their financial function. Seriously, the government can't spend a single rupee or raise a tax without Parliament saying, okay. Then there's the representation function for all those diverse groups we talked about. They have a debating function. It's the highest form of debate in the land, where members can speak freely. And they even have judicial functions, dealing with the removal of the president, the vice president, or top judges. It's the whole shebang.
Now, because the two houses represent different things, they wield different powers. The Rajya Sabha has this exclusive power to protect state interests, and it can authorize the national parliament to make laws on things that are usually left to the states. But the Lok Sabha, they hold the absolute trump cards. Only the Lok Sabha can initiate and pass money bills, so anything dealing with taxes and spending. And they alone have the power to remove the government. Why? Well, in a democracy, the people are the ultimate boss. So by that logic, only the directly elected representatives should get to control the money and the survival of the government itself.
Section 4, the lawmaking procedure. Making a law isn't a quick all-in-favor vote. It's a highly rigorous assembly line built specifically to scrutinize every single detail. The journey actually starts outside the legislature. The relevant ministry drafts it. Then, it's introduced in either house. Unless it's a money bill, right? Those have to start in the Lok Sabha.
Then comes the real heavy lifting. We're talking detailed discussions, clause-by-clause voting, and committee reviews. Once it passes one house, it goes to the other to endure that exact same grueling process. Finally, if both houses are on board, it goes to the president for assent. And that is how a bill transforms into a binding law.
Now, you might be surprised to hear this, but the floors of the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha just do not have the time to debate every single technical clause of every single bill. So what do? They rely on miniature legislatures, the parliamentary committees. These committees take a magnifying glass to the bills, they gather public input, and then they send their reports back to the House. Honestly, they are the unsung heroes of the whole legislative assembly line.
And finally, Section 5, controlling the executive.
To make sure the government, the executive branch, actually stays accountable to the voters, the legislature has to constantly ride the brakes. But to do that effectively, legislators need a shield. Enter parliamentary privilege. This basically guarantees that absolutely no civil or criminal action can be taken against an MP for whatever they say on the floor of the House. The presiding officer gets the final word on matters of privilege. And this freedom? It is absolute and totally necessary. It's what lets representatives work fearlessly, voice the unpopular opinions, and call out the highest levels of government without constantly worrying about retaliation.
So, armed with that privilege, Parliament uses a whole toolkit to keep the executive in check through deliberation and discussion during question hour or 0 hour, which, by the way, are dedicated times specifically meant to grill ministers. They extract crucial information and expose failures. Through the approval or refusal of laws, they force the government to negotiate. Through financial control, they hold the purse strings, making the government justify every bit of its budget.
But then there is the ultimate weapon, the no-confidence motion. If a government loses the support of its party or coalition and can't command a majority in the Lok Sabha anymore, Parliament can just dismiss the government entirely. And this is not just theoretical textbook stuff. Since 1989, several governments have actually been forced to resign because they lost the confidence of the House. It's definitive proof that the executive serves entirely at the pleasure of the legislature.
And that wraps up our explainer for this chapter. We've unpacked how Parliament acts as the engine room, balancing crazy regional interests, churning out heavy legislation, and keeping the government on a very tight leash. But I want to leave you with one final, provocative question to chew on today. In this massive, intricate dance of democracy, who truly holds the ultimate power? Is it you, the people who vote? Is it the Parliament that creates the laws? Or is it the executive that actually implements them? Think about how those powers overlap, collide, and check each other. Thanks for joining me on The Explainer, and keep questioning the mechanics of the world around you.